Welcome to Ivy and Ivy, Generations of Justice.
Welcome back to Ivy and Ivy, Generations of Justice with attorneys Sam and Vic Ivy of Ivy and Ivy Law. I'm Lisa Mosby, your host. With deep roots in West Tennessee and decades of courtroom experience, Sam and Vic represent injured individuals in serious personal injury cases and guide families through the legal process with strategy and clarity. In today's episode, we're going over how long a personal injury case actually takes in Tennessee. Sam and Vic will walk through the timeline from the initial accident to resolution and explain why patience can sometimes make a critical difference in the courtroom. Gentlemen, welcome, and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lisa. Glad to be with you.
Glad to be here.
You know, Vic, when someone calls your office and asks how long their case will take, what factors do you look at before giving any kind of a timeline?
Well, Lisa, the first thing that we look at is the severity of the injuries. A person may, as a result of a minor crash, simply suffer from whiplash, back strain, neck strain, that sort of thing, or maybe bruised or injured a limb or something like that. When they have that sort of thing, sometimes the cases can move a little bit quicker. But if you have a very severe injury, we're always waiting until the individual reaches what we call maximum medical improvement. That is, they get as well as they're going to get. Now, once that occurs, then we can start talking about trying to settle a case or talking about a timeline on a case. But it's just hard to put a timeline on how quick a person will heal. Broken bones, nerve damage, that sort of thing takes a whole lot longer to heal than just a simple muscle strain. So it's hard to put a timeline on these cases, and we advise our clients right up front that it may take a longer time depending upon the severity of the injuries.
And I understand that, we can't even tell what the severity of the injuries are up front. It's hard to know until you get in there and start the healing process. But how much does the medical treatment phase influence the overall length of a case, especially when someone is still actively recovering? How do you move forward?
Yeah, Lisa, what we try to do is, of course, track the progress of the client as well as we can. We talk to them frequently to see what the doctor is saying about the recovery, what's the prognosis for the future. And then we follow behind that client and get all their medical records, and we analyze those to determine, as Dad said, what stage are we in, and are we in a position where we can talk about case value, or does more treatment need to be had? We have some cases where, quite frankly, the client is so injured they're never going to, of course, get completely better. But the doctor can offer an opinion about what perhaps future medicals are needed down the road. What is the estimate of costs of future meds and discounted for present value? And we can use that, to put advantages in the case too, along with some other experts. So it gets very technical, and they all vary in length too. But as Dad said, with a severe injury, usually that equates to a longer time that the case may take to get resolved.
That makes sense, Sam. And Vic mentioned MMA, I believe it's called, where we're looking for the maximum amount of time it takes for someone to heal. At what point does it make sense to begin settlement discussions with an insurance company? And how does that timing affect that MMA process?
That's a good question, Lisa. And as I stated before, the maximum medical improvement of the individual is what we're looking for. We want our clients to get well just as soon as they can. However, some of these injuries are more permanent. And if we have a permanent type injury, then it may be that the client actually never fully recovers before we start talking about settlement with the insurance company. But basically what we wind up doing is obtaining all of the medical records of the individual. We take a look at those records that our client has, and then we begin to discuss with the insurance company a value as far as the particular type of injuries are concerned. certainly an injury to the whole body is going to be worth a whole lot more than just an injury, say, to a finger or something like that. However, it depends upon like a person's occupation. If they're a surgeon or a piano player or something like that and they have an injury to a finger, it would make a whole lot more sense to talk about a larger figure for settlement. So it just depends upon, the person's occupation, their earning capacity, what they do during a normal day, and then, of course, whether or not they have reached maximum medical improvement before we can start talking about the settlement of the case.
I think I may have messed up that acronym. Is it MMI that we see? Maximum
Yes,
medical improvement?
MMI.
Okay, thank you.
MMA
Thank
is
you.
like maybe the fighting or something.
Oh, yeah. The good one. Sam, once a lawsuit is filed, what stages does a case move through in Tennessee courts, and where does most of the time get spent?
So, if the case progresses in the litigation, we have to file a lawsuit, which in Tennessee you have to within a year of the accident on most cases. What will happen is we will file what's called a complaint. We will serve that on the at fault party, send a copy to their insurance company and the other folks involved, and then they have 30 days to answer that lawsuit. Once they answer the suit, then we get into what's called the written discovery stage. That's where the parties exchange paperwork, medical records, medical bills, things that prove liability in the case, etc. And so you can see a lot of time gets spent there with the exchange of paperwork. I would say that's one of the most lengthy parts of the case. And after that time, if we're not able to discuss resolution, we get into depositions. That's where a court reporter will take down the sworn testimony of the parties, number one, and then any relevant witnesses that the attorneys want to take before trial. And then usually the last thing that we do before trial is we take the depositions of our experts. And that's normally in any case going to be the treating medical physicians in the case, as well as any other experts that we may need to hire to prove our case. If liability is in question, it may be an accident reconstructionist. As Dad said, with like a lost wage, lost earning capacity situation, it may be a life care planner or an economist. And similarly, if it's a death case, an economist would be needed to prove what that person may have made. So a lot of technicality there too.
And then what tends to slow a case down the most? Is it disputes over liability, disagreements about medical proof, court scheduling, or something else?
It very well could be an issue of liability, and that's where our experience is invaluable because Sam has several trials under his belt. He's tried several cases. I was a federal prosecutor and state prosecutor for over 35 years, so I've tried cases, tons of cases. I don't even know how many cases. I've presented, hundreds of cases to juries, but liability is a huge issue, and that's the first hurdle that we'd have to overcome. Once we can overcome that and show that our client is not at fault, especially in these car wreck cases, you have to have an attorney that can either try a case or knows how to convince an adjuster, an insurance company, or the lawyer on the other side, on the defense side, that our client was not at fault. Then once you get beyond that hurdle, then we start talking about the particular injuries that have occurred, whether or not those are permanent type injuries, and all that can slow a case down tremendously. Of course, once we get into litigation, as Sam said, there's a myriad of things that can occur, Lisa. You're doing interrogatories, discovery, answering questions that the other side is asking, depositions, all those sorts of things. And then one thing that can really slow it down is getting a trial date and getting the case set for trial. And once we do that, once we get to that point, then we're ready to go try the case, and then usually we could get a good result for our client.
Thank you for walking us through that process. In your experience, how do serious injury cases differ from minor injury cases when it comes to the timeline and the complexity?
So I would say I hate to give a lawyer answer here, but it depends on each and every specific case. We have had cases before where a soft tissue injury with a disputed liability case takes much longer than, say, a catastrophic injury case, and vice versa. It really depends on the client, their progression through their medical treatment, and a number of other issues that just differ with each case. You know, if there's a disputed liability case where two parties are saying they had the green light, speed's an issue. You know, these days we have airbag control modules in the vehicles and everything else. We may have to get engineers that do tests on those vehicles. So that can hang things up on any case. But with a severe injury as well, you're going to have many treating physicians likely that may treat various areas of the body. You know, I mean, there may be someone, for example, that has a brain injury, traumatic brain injury. You need a neurologist for that, but they also have a back injury, and you're talking about a neurosurgeon and or an orthopedist that may be working with that. So when you get into the medical weeds, it can take a significant amount of time to get all that tied up and proven for court, even after the client reaches maximum medical improvement, MMI.
MMI. So it seems like MMI leads it, and then your testimony, primarily from experts, actually factor into the timing. Are they available? When can they get to the research that needs to be done? Can you share an example of a case that took longer than expected and why that extra time ultimately mattered?
So, Lisa, I mean, I can think of a number of examples of cases that have similar fact patterns that maybe had a different timeline. For example, we had a client one time that had a bulging disc, or really two different cases that seemed similar. One had a bulging disc, the other one had a bulging disc at various levels in the spinal cord, but that injury greatly affected one of the clients more than the other one. The disc bulge on one was such that the doctor opined that it could heal over time without surgical intervention. So that client reached MMI much quicker, and we could get a picture of their medical future than the one that had to go under the knife, unfortunately. And because that recovery time was significant, and it just took a long time to get that proof developed in that case. That person was also out of work for a long period of time, and so their lost wages and lost earning capacity had to be proven up too, because they were a professional, you know, and so you have to get experts for all that stuff too. So that's two I'm thinking of that were, you know, different, involving a back injury.
Great examples because, like I said, no case is the same. You had mentioned that over and over, that we can't answer the question of timeline. We just don't know until we get into it and start moving through. But how do you help clients manage the financial and emotional strain while a case is still pending?
Well, we discuss the case with them. We go through it thoroughly. We also have resources that are available that can financially that can help clients also, Lisa. But the main thing is going through these cases. For example, a lot of the cases we do involve commercial vehicles, big rigs that are out on the interstate, that sort of thing. Uh, we represent the victims in those, and of course, you know, through my experience of dealing with victims in state and federal prosecution, I've dealt with victims through the years. So there are different resources available for victims of various, not necessarily crimes, but also torts or civil actions that occur. So we can contact state and federal authorities that might be able to give some relief to those individuals. Now, as we're talking about just a second ago with Sam's question on some of the cases that take longer, and I did mention the big rig type accidents. And by the way, we represented both drivers of big rigs and also individuals that are victims of accidents that occur out there on the interstate involving cars. It's not necessarily just the big rigs, but those can take a considerable amount of time. We get into the expert type things, and sometimes we get into not only the tractor of the big rigs out there, the 18-wheelers, but also the trailers can cause damage as well. So there are several factors that have to be considered in these type cases. So we discuss all that with our clients. We can give them counseling as far as the financial side of it is concerned, maybe a timeline, but we also have resources that are available should they fall into just extreme dire straits if their case is worthy of those type resources.
And also, most of our clients are going to have significant medical charges that they're having to deal with through the pendency of the case. We try to contact and make arrangements with those providers to get them off of the client's back as they go through this. It's always disheartening to get a large bill or something that's confusing in the mail. So we try to, pacify those people, let them know that we've got an injury case going on, and so the client can focus on their recovery and not have to have the headache of the bills as they go through that. Most of the time, we're able to do that.
Final question for today, gentlemen. What would you want someone in West Tennessee to understand about the risks of pushing for a fast resolution instead of allowing the case to fully develop?
My advice for anyone that's been in a bad accident is to call us as soon as possible. Obviously, go to the hospital and get treatment, but call us as soon as possible so that we can begin building your case. Even though it does take quite some time to get the maximum amount out of cases, and we shoot straight with our clients and tell them it can be a while to get the most out of the case. But the best thing to do is give us a call, because once we get involved, that will stop the communication from the insurance company on trying to make some lowball offer and get them to sign a release quickly, leaving money on the table ultimately. So my advice would be get us involved early on in the case. Let us build your case for you, and all the while, hopefully that'll make you feel better as you go through your recovery, knowing that hopefully we're going to get a good result for you in the end. And we have a good track record of doing that, Lisa. So
if you are injured in an automobile accident on a federal highway, that's interstate, like Interstate 40, or state highway, such as Highway 412, you need to call us as soon as possible at Ivy and Ivy Law, because we have contact with the federal and state authorities that you're going to need to try to get a quick recovery. We're not pushing for a quick recovery, but as quickly as possible that we can do for the clients, because we have contacts with those authorities and can get the process moving quickly.
And those folks know that we will prepare the case as if it's going to trial, and that helps us maximize potential settlement offer early on the case. Hopefully, that's happened before. So.
All really valid points. Thank you so much for shining light on this and walking us through some of the nuances. I know it's a case-by-case situation, but you really helped to clear it up for us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Ivy and Ivy, Generations of Justice. If you've been injured in an accident and have questions about the legal process or how long your case may take, Sam and Vic Ivy are here to help you understand your options and move forward with confidence. Visit ivyandivy.com to speak with Sam or Vic today, and be sure to like, subscribe, share this episode, and come on back next time. We'll see you there.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.